Piers Morgan, Nick Fuentes, the battle of terrible people. This should be interesting because I don't like either of these individuals. I dislike one more because obviously he has very dangerous principles. But what makes this interesting is not necessarily that they're debating, but it is interesting to see when will Piers Morgan wake up? When will the light bulb above his head flick on? Because he had the whole spiel on Jubilee that, oh my goodness, the woke left, they're so problematic, they're so dangerous, they're fascist, dare I say. He thinks the most dangerous people in America are like 7 trans people that competed in sports. And then we have an individual who's a racist, sexist, anti-Semitic, neo-Nazi. Let's see if he gives them the same energy that he does the woke left. Okay? This will be a very interesting litmus test of Piers Morgan's morals. And I do think it says a lot that Nick Fuentes is continuously ending up on these right-wing shows. Steven Crowder, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and now Piers Morgan. Let's dive into it.
Whether you're a New York Times reader, an NPR fan, a Daily Wire subscriber, or an avid consumer of all things Tucker Carlson, for several months now, there's been no avoiding the subject of Nick Fuentes. And let's be clear, the main reason you're hearing about him is because he's popular. A large number of people, especially young men, are interested in what he has to say. What that says about our society and our culture is the subject of ferocious debate. For many people, it's a grave indictment of an insidious immorality. For others, he's a product of a culture which has turned on its own and left many young people feeling listless and bitter. He's either a litmus test for right-wing hypocrisy on free speech.
Let's get right into
Rumble, where you often come across as having, a very unreasonable view on things. This is what Coleman Hughes said about you. Rumble, where you often come across as having, a very unreasonable view on things. This is what Coleman Hughes said about you.
Nick Fuentes knows exactly what he's doing. He is consciously playing this double game as part of a long-term strategy to become popular enough to take the reins of power, at which point he plans to pivot towards the extreme and unpopular policies that he advocates daily on Rumble.
So first of all, what is your response to that?
Well, first of all, I would say that Coleman Hughes is a propagandist. He works for the Free Press, which is run by Barry Weiss. So I think you have to consider the source. And Barry Weiss is a pro-Israel partisan. Free Press is just bought out by CBS for $150 million by Larry Ellison or his son, David Ellison. And so I think that's coming from a particular point of view. We can't pretend like that's coming from a vacuum or from some fixed position. That's coming from a propaganda outlet that's in favor of Israel. That's first. But second, I would say he is right about the 2 personas. And I think that everybody understands this on some level. On my show, I make jokes and I use rhetoric and I'm hyperbolic because for a long time, I had an audience that was small on these like dissident platforms.
It's interesting. Piers Morgan starts the conversation by using someone else's attack on him. I wonder why he did that. Usually he has something to point out. He goes like, okay, this is something you said. And then he kind of goes at that. I mean, the perfect example is like Destiny. Destiny, he brings up a tweet. He's like, you said this. Do you feel bad at what you're saying? This one, he didn't play the offensive. Nitpicky, minor things. But I do think it spells a lot when he treats the left versus when he treats the right. So let's continue.
I was on D Live for many years. A lot of people don't even know what that is. And so I had a small following and we had sort of like an in-group sense of humor and memes and things like that. And you talk about it one way on a freewheeling live stream when I'm by myself and I'm ranting and we make jokes and we play devil's advocate. We play with different positions. But then when you sit down in an interview like this one and people ask me a good faith question, what do you actually believe? Well, then I clarify and I say, well, here I'm not joking. Here I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not being rhetorical. I'll tell you precisely what I believe. As far as this idea that I'm going to get power and then turn into Hitler, that just sounds totally insane to me. I'll be honest. It just sounds insane.
Do you have aspirations for political power?
Not really. I think that if I wanted to run for office, I wouldn't say a lot of the things that I say. I don't know that a lot of people would vote for me. I tend to offend everybody, even a lot of people that like me. So no, I'm a truth teller.
Hey, that I think there's something important to parse out. Do I think Nick Fuentes would ever be able to win like the presidency? As of right now, I'm gonna say no, but like the right is becoming so crazy that you really never know at this point. I'm wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump said that he didn't have aspirations to run for presidency. But then once he accumulated so much power and notoriety and then had a cult following, I mean, one, Donald Trump has an ego, so he wanted to obtain said power, but also there was people who wanted to use his frantic nature and his cult-like following for their own kind of right-wing fascist needs, i.e. Curtis Yarvin, for example. I could see the same thing happening for Nick Fuentes. And I could see him being a more articulate version, I guess, of Donald Trump. So I'm not saying he's only like 27. So never say never.
Eller, I like to tell the truth. I like to do my live stream.
Who is Nick Fuentes? Tell me about your upbringing. I know you grew up in the...
I don't give a fuck about who the fuck Nick Fuentes is. What is this? What is this? An interview of Nick Fuentes? Why the fuck are you interviewing him? You know exactly who he is. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Hey, maybe, I don't know, Piers Morgan like that. Maybe he does this for all his guests, regardless of how radical they are. I doubt it because I think he's very bad faith. But I don't. This is one of those type of questions that humanizes the guest. I just want to point
suburbs of Chicago.
To a conversation about politics from this, I believe the first wave of Italian immigration, my father stopped, and then you'd have another wave, and then it would stop. From China, India, Venezuela, El Salvador, and it's so many with no break for assimilation, and they're all from non.
I don't care about his background.
You said this. We're looping. You said this.
No, but you haven't really directly, I think, responded to it, which is where.
You said this. We're looping. You said city. And we're looking for accountability. We have a lot of black people that are always outraged about racism, outraged about attitudes from white people, but they're never ashamed of some of these behaviors, never ashamed of some of the things that go on. And that's why I think there's a lot of negative attitudes these days. And so, you know, again, I think those attitudes, you say I'm a product of my environment. I am. And so are my parents and my grandparents. Unlike you, because you're not even American, in Chicago, we have to live in a big, diverse city where there's a lot of different kinds of people. And I live in a big diverse city. Tell you the same.
I live in London. It's one of the biggest and most diverse cities in the world.
But it's not the same.
Well, actually, it's a big diverse city. The only difference is we don't have the gun violence because we don't have guns. That's a whole different story. I don't want to get into that with you. I have got into that before.
You got
in America.
A knife problem. You got sword problems.
We have problems with
Aladdin.
We have problems with violent crime. I make no pretense of it. So the idea that somehow I'm cosseted in London because I'm not in Chicago.
I didn't say that.
Well, you kind of implied it. But I guess my point about the environment, I'm not saying you are a product of your environment. I'm saying most people are in some capacity. When I read that anecdote, it's just to remind you, it's not something I have put out there. You told this story. Right. And you said that
you said this. We're looping. You said this.
No, but you haven't really directly, I think, responded to it, which is whether your father would not take you to certain restaurant chains because he associated them with black Americans. Is that true?
No, well, see here, if you're in America.
Oh, dad racist? Not surprised, actually. Not surprised at all.
You would say that Olive Garden is not real Italian food. Applebee's, TGI Fridays, and stuff is a load of crap. My dad was just a food snob, but no, it's got nothing to do with that. My best friend in first grade was a black guy. We're not a racist family. So
okay. So when you told the story, I'm just curious.
Wow, his best friend in first grade was a black guy. Oh my God, he's not racist. Like that is the most low effort. I got a black friend that I've ever heard.
So when you told that anecdote, which clearly on the face of it is racist, right? You're basically saying your father made racist decisions about where you would go as a family to eat. Are you saying, well, I'm just going to ask you a question. Are you saying that when you told that story, you didn't mean to infer that he was racist? And do you understand why when somebody like me reads that anecdote for the first time, as I did this week, I reach a different conclusion?
Well, I understand what you're doing, which is a sort of making of a murderer. How did he become racist? Well, his father didn't eat an Olive Garden because he said that's not real Italian food. Hang on, can I? What's with the interruptions? Can I explain?
I'm literally reminding you of something you said on your show, which led me
and
which led
was
me to
said in
conclude a
jest.
certain thing. If I'm wrong, tell me.
Yeah, it was said in jest as
Okay, this is the normal Piers Morgan strategy. Way less interrupting. Like he would interrupt more if you're on the left, but he picks something out and then he goes and dare I say attack it. So all right, we're in the meat and potatoes of it. Let's dissect his racism.
a humorous anecdote, and now you're trying to spin it into a narrative, which is his parents are racist. He comes from a long line of racists. And I think everybody knows my parents are boomers. And these people come, well, you're a boomer, I guess, too. In a way,
60.
right? You were born in what, 19? Yeah. So you're a boomer also. Or maybe you're a Gen Xer. I suppose it's sort of on the cusp. But it's a humorous anecdote. These are kind of the attitudes of baby boomers in society, but you're trying to spin it into a narrative, which is you're a product of your environment. Your dad's racist because of this joke. Now you're a racist. And I don't think that's a fair characterization.
Okay. People can make their own minds up. They can go back and listen to you say it. I mean, the beauty of what I'm going to talk to you about in this interview is that almost all of it is just going to be reminding you what you have said and asking you what you meant. Your position about that story is that it was a joke. Okay. I want to come to something else you said. This is where you talk about Jews, women, and blacks. Let's just take a listen.
They're always coming up with, no, it's not the Jews. No, it's not women. No, it's not blacks. It's actually really complicated. No, it fucking isn't at all. Jews are running society. Women need to shut the fuck up. Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. And we would live in paradise. It's that simple.
Okay. Would you like to?
All right. Such an obviously crazy statement. I just want to see if the energy from Piers Morgan's here. I am done psychoanalyzing Piers Morgan, and now I'm just here for the show that is Nick Fuentes and Piers Morgan.
Clarify what you meant there?
That's all true. That's 100% true. Everything I said in that clip is true.
Including that...
I feel like I don't need to respond to this. I don't need to pull up facts or anything like that. I know the groypers in the comment section are going to... at this point, they're just lost human beings, man. They're like the fallen, but can't fight, gets no bitches, and was pissed that a Jewish person was smarter than them in grade school. So there's really nothing I can say to convince these people. They're lost beings as of right now. Jesus Christ would be disappointed in you. But that said, I guess I would just be like, I kind of understand where these people are just lonely, pathetic people inside their mom's basement for the most part. Like nobody pays attention to them, so they're gonna outlash on everybody. And I wish we did have a society that was truly meeting people where they're at. I do think that's a problem, but the solution of like attacking everybody else because they're not paying attention to me is pathetic.
Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part.
Yeah. Yes.
But all of them?
No, for the most part.
What does the most part mean? What percentage of American blacks would you like to see in prison?
Whatever the percentages of the murderers. I think it's 1 in 20 black men will commit a murder in their lifetime. So maybe let's say that 5%.
Oh, so you're talking about black people who murder people?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But you didn't say that.
That's not what he was alluding to. 1 in 20 black people will murder someone. Is that a true statistic? People will murder percentage. Let's look this up.
You just said blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. You didn't clarify that you were talking about black murderers.
Right. No, you're right. That's a good addition to that. That's a great point.
You think it's funny or?
I think, yeah, I do. I think it's hilarious. I think it's totally true.
Do you think a black American would find it funny? Do you think that blacks should be imprisoned for the most part?
Blacks are my biggest fans. I get high fives all the time. They say, Nick Fuentes, I love your show. They agree with me. And you want to know why? Here's the difference. Black people are the most victimized by other black people. You think black people want to live in the hood and the ghetto and get shot all the time? That's what happens in the south side of Chicago. You should come here. I'll take you there. We could go to Garfield Park.
My son went to Chicago University for a year, actually, several years ago.
Yeah, that's a bubble.
This is what they do. It's a very careful manipulation tactic. Honestly, Donald Trump does the same thing, where he kind of makes himself seem friendlier It's not as what I said is not serious, man. What I really meant is was like the black people that do crime. No, it was one a statement of inflammation to get reaction, obviously, but two, it's a generalized statement to create a generalized notion that black people are criminals. That's what he was attempting to do. He's not a comedian. He wants to shape a narrative. It's unfortunate that some people kind of buy into this. There's some black people that buy into this. It's really, really disgusting. Don't get me wrong, I have issues here and there with like black crime, but I also have issues with white crime, white racism, all those white pedophiles, those Catholic priests, all those white mass shooters. But we ain't gonna talk about those people, right? What the white cops doing. We ain't gonna talk about those white women beaters. We ain't gonna talk about that. So some of the most despicable crimes you could think of. I think you know who to attach that identity to. But that would be lazy. That would be inappropriate if I did it to white people.
That's a bubble. You think you're in Chicago and Hyde Park? You don't know Chicago. Go a little bit west, see what it's like over there. And I'll tell you, black people agree with me because they're tired of it too. And maybe not most of them, but a lot of them agree with what I say about that because they know how it is. That's why the first thing they do when they make a little bit of money is they go and leave to another neighborhood.
Okay, so what was just remind me again, the percentage of black men who commit murder in America. What was the percentage you gave me?
It's 1 in 20. 1 in 20.
It's 1 in 100.
No, it's 1 in 20.
No. Less than 1 in 100 black US men commit murder. That's the most up-to-date crime statistics in America.
That's not true. I've seen other statistics. They say 1 in 20 will eventually commit a murder.
So your rate means that you're saying that 5 times as many black men commit murder as the official crime statistics say.
Yeah, there's a report, I believe, on X by Data Hazard. I'll have to go and double check that for you. But yes, there's some pretty shocking evidence that says that it's far more alarming than you would think.
Okay, but you would.
Yeah, I don't care what this is. Oh man, he's really becoming new age Donald Trump, where he denies all the facts, denies all the statistics, denies reality in front of him. He decides what reality is. And honestly, he can get away with it because he has a bunch of lonely, pathetic motherfuckers that are just following his every word. And the Republicans are bringing him in, man. They're letting him in. They're letting him put his feet on the table. They're letting him. Well, I can't say fuck it, their wives because he's a virgin and he gets no pussy. But maybe fuck the brothers. Maybe that.
Accept that the official crime statistics are 1 in 100, or you wouldn't accept that statistic.
I don't know. I don't have it in front of me, but I've seen other evidence. Like I said, Data Hazard on X, I believe, produced a report about a year ago. It said 1 in 20. But I mean, whether it's 1 in 20 or 1 in 100, that's a lot of people, Piers. I mean,
sure,
this is
a lot of white
problem.
people commit murder too. Well, they do, don't they?
Okay, but it's about proportionality. I mean, white people are 65% of the population. Blacks are 13%. Mm-hmm. And I think anybody would tell you that more black people proportionally commit violent crime than white people. And people vote with their feet. People would rather pay a much higher property tax.
Most mass
what's
shootings.
with the interruptions?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Oh, Piers Morgan has the. Where has this Piers Morgan been? Where's this Piers Morgan been? He knows the rebuttals to these bullshits. Like, I do want to engage in these conversations of black culture, but this is not a conversation of fixing black culture and fixing these communities that have been ruined from systematic racism over black people's history. That's not the conversation. It's a conversation that black people are criminals and lock them all up. The default is they're a criminal. So Piers Morgan is ready. Let's do it. Let's do the stereotypes. Okay, let's go.
Dude, I appreciate that. You look at in Chicago, in New York, these neighborhoods are so stratified. People would rather pay a high tax rate. They'd rather pay a much higher property value to live in a less diverse, less black neighborhood because they don't want to live around the violence. And I think that when you look at even on the public transit, the subway, the blue line, people don't want to go there because they know who occupies and menaces the public transit. It is these people like Daniel Penny had to deal with. It's people like Irina Zarutska had to deal with. And that's just the uncomfortable reality.
You've also said you don't want to live near black people. Let's take a listen to this clip.
I'm a new generation of white person. I'm not living around blacks. Sorry. I want white kids, and I don't want my white kids bringing home black people to marry. It's racial for me. And call me racist. Oh, very Christian of you. I don't give a fuck.
I mean, it couldn't be clearer, really, unless you want to say that's another of your jokes. But you're basically saying, yeah, I'm a racist, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
You're fine with saying you're a racist?
Totally. I think everybody's racist. I think everybody, if we're being honest, is racist. I think everybody, the only people that aren't racist or pretend not to be are white people to their detriment. Everybody else is racist.
But earlier in the interview, you got aggrieved at the idea that your father was a racist. You wanted to make emphatically
because
sure
my father's...
He's not.
Because my father doesn't share my same views on that.
So he's the exception to everyone's a racist.
Well, everybody's a little bit racist. You're right. So maybe everybody, the difference is you're attacking my father. He could get fired from his job.
I'm not attacking your father.
You are.
No, I'm not. I don't know your father. And to be clear, I have no knowledge about him at all. Then
let's leave him out of it. Let's leave him out of it if you don't know him.
Hang on, Nick. You put that story.
This is an interesting strategy by Piers. I'm not going to lie. It sounds like a touchy subject for Fuentes because obviously he does the same strategy, makes a generalized claim, and then walks it back after he starts getting grilled on it. He's like, everybody's a little bit racist. Everybody has a kind of negative connotation of like certain people. But in reality, that's not what he's saying. But people, the low IQ goipers, they can't understand contextual clues. They can't understand manipulative language, which I can't be surprised, right? I mean, if you're getting manipulated, of course you won't understand you're getting manipulated. But you say outrageous thing, you create a generalized notion about said thing. He made the claim, he already made the claim about black people being criminals, black people murdering everybody. They're a problem. Nobody wants to be in black neighborhoods. Matter of fact, I will go so far as my daughter, he'll never have a daughter. He gets no bitches. My daughter will not marry a black man because I'm racist. Everybody's racist. Everybody's a little bit racist. You gotta catch these people in their act because we know exactly what he's trying to say.
Story into the public domain on your show. I'm simply reminding you of what you told everybody, millions of people, about your father. If you now want to retract it, fine. If you want to say it was a joke, which is what your position was earlier, fine. But I'm allowed to put to you things you've said publicly. That's not unfair. That's not me targeting your father. You put that story about him out
You know
there.
What you're doing. You know what you're doing.
I'm asking you about a pretty shocking anecdote, which to me looked like you were saying your father made decisions about where you as a family would eat based on skin color of people who worked at these places. If you say, or use them, if you say that is not what you meant, that's fine. You can respond any way you like. But the idea I can't ask you about it without you saying I'm attacking your father is ridiculous.
Well, you are, and you know what you're doing. And there's a political culture in America where if you have the wrong views, you get fired.
Okay, Piers. All right. Okay. Golf clap. That was right. That was not bad. Not too shabby.
From your job. And my father has a job. And if you go on here and say, you charge him with racism or something, and I'm put in a position where I don't look like I'm sticking to my guns if I don't say my father's a racist, you're putting him in jeopardy, and he's not here to defend himself or explain his views. And it's very low. And I think you know exactly what you're doing, and people can see what you're doing. I'll defend my views. And I think that, so let's leave him out of it.
I want to be very clear. I don't give two shits. Not at all. Especially if these are words that he said. I mean, be mad at yourself. You're the ones who said this. Piers Morgan's correct. He's just going based off what you're telling him about how he picked and choose restaurants because of the association with black people. So I don't give a fuck about what happens to his pop, his daddy. I wonder if Nick Fuentes calls him daddy.
Let's just not talk about my father because my father isn't here. I'm here.
Okay, well, then do you accept that you shouldn't talk? Okay, that's fine. But then do you accept you shouldn't talk about your father on your show, and you shouldn't tell?
Absolutely not. Absolutely
not.
So
it's fine for you to put a story out there which would make most people who listened to that story or watched it at the time on your show conclude that he was racist. It's fine for you to do that. But if I then ask you about it, I'm the one who's being unfair and I've crossed a line. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you're being malicious.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Listen, people are watching this live. They can draw their own conclusions about whether what I just did.
And they will.
Yeah, and I'm sure afterwards, by the way, you'll say, he ambushed me with your own words.
Whoa.
With your own words.
That's a little presumptuous. I'm not going to say it's an ambush, but I think that's a low blow. And I think you know what you're doing, and that's fine. You're a tabloid journalist. I expected that. I don't think it's an ambush because I knew it would be like this. And people will see what you're doing, and I think they'll say it's low. But as far as you want to talk about racism,
I do.
Let's talk about...
It's interesting how Nick Fuentes is trying to use contextual clues to understand that it's beyond language based on how certain words within the context of the conversation are used. It's interesting that Nick Fuentes realized that's a reality. I don't know why his followers are so brain dead. I don't get it.
Racism. Okay, let's leave my dad out of it.
Look, you've admitted you're a racist, correct?
Yes, 100%. Okay. Own it.
Okay, that's fine. You're perfectly entitled in a free democratic society to stare down the barrel of his camera and tell me you're a racist. People can judge you accordingly. Many people who have assumed that you're racist will now have heard it from your own lips. That's fine.
There you go.
That's the point. The point of this interview is to go over the things you said, which have led people to reach conclusions about you, and to ascertain whether those conclusions are fair and reasonable or not. That's it. I want to play you another clip. This is what you talk about why white people are justified in being racist. Let's take a listen to this.
First, white people are every single bit justified in being racist. Every single bit justified, to the extent that that means going out of your way to avoid black people when you see them.
You stand by that?
Absolutely.
He's unapologetic because he knows he can go in his little bubble in the corner of the internet where his groiper lonely virgin followers of like 28-year-old white men living in their basements can go like, yeah. It's crazy. And I know the reaction. It's very simple. Well, based on what you said, it makes sense for me to be a little racist against white people, right? Because of people like you who want to lock people up like me up. People like you who want to fondle little kids. People like you who want to commit mass shootings. People like you who want to do some of the most corrupt and disgusting things in American history. People like you who want to lynch people. People like you who want to commit some of the worst, disgusting crimes in America. So there are things you can apply to people like you, but then people like you will whine and complain and say black fatigue. All of it is really lazy. All of it is low IQ effort. All of it is trying to rile up a crowd to create a monolith of a cultish personality and ideology. All of it is evil. All of it is dangerous. So I prefer to live in reality. I know Nick Fuentes doesn't, but hopefully people like you realize what he's doing.
So white people should go out of their way to avoid black people when they see them.
Absolutely. They would be wise.
Why?
Because it's a lose-lose proposition. If you're Irina Zarutska and you don't walk the other way, you get stabbed to death and you die. If you're somebody else and you walk on the subway and you stand near a black person or something, maybe it's fine. It's a lose-lose proposition. So no, I think that white people have been beaten into submission, that we're afraid to tell the truth about it. And the truth is that when you go into these major cities like New York or Chicago, I believe she was in North Carolina, there is a menace, which is young, black, adolescent men. They're extremely violent. And we have been told that we have to pretend like they are every other person. We have to be colorblind to that. And we're supposed to go and be in the midst of all this danger And I think that at this point, it's gotten out of control. You look at the BLM movement, they said that the reason that black people, are violent, or the reason there's crime, is because of police brutality, or redlining, or all these other things. They said we need to get rid of the police. We need to defund them. And a lot of cities did. A lot of cities like Chicago, for example, the police changed the rules of engagement. They don't chase them. It's not a felony if you steal a certain amount of merchandise. They won't chase them on foot. And now the city's totally up for grabs. And now, whether you're in the Gold Coast, or whether you're on the Mag Mile, or you're in the worst neighborhoods in the city, you might get shot, you might get mugged, someone might run up on you. And
None of this is true. Chicago is actually has lowered their crime rate significantly. These are all narratives. This is all bullshit. And when it comes down to it, a lot of the big cities do have crime because of the big cities and how there's a lot of people in there. So there's a condensed amount of people in a smaller area where there's a very clear line between the rich parts of the city and the poor parts of the city. You see that in literally every big city in the United States of America. And this kind of discrepancy creates this weird situation of crime. Now, let's be very clear. Because of there's so many people, because of the discrepancy of poor and rich in these cities, because of the condensed nature, and because of the circumstance of the living environments, it does create this very unfortunate culture. But all these other areas that are poor, that are much spread out, of course, you're not going to have the same crime rates because there's less people. It's much spread out, but there's still a lot of fucking crime. Surprise, surprise. There's a lot of crime in those poor white areas too, but we just don't talk about it because it's not in a big fucking city. Because of course you're not talking about it. There's a reason why all these red states without these big cities are having just as much or even more crime in comparison. Because nobody's talking about them. Because they're not in the big city. It's just like understanding that is hard for people. Poor areas are just going to have crime. It's just that poor areas in big cities also are filled with more like people of color. So that's what people focus on. It's tough. We do need to fix it like all across the board in the big cities and in the rural areas, both places with very bad crime. We do need to fix both. Now, at the very least, in big cities, they have certain things that try to help these areas with like schooling and public transportation. Rural areas are fucked. They're piss poor. They are down bad. Transportation sucks. Healthcare sucks. Like, it's not good in the cities, but in these areas, it's way fucking worse. With way worse police enforcement.
Tell my followers it is better to be perceived as racist or racist and walk the other way and maybe keep your life than to say, I'm a good anti-racist. I don't mind that this person's making me uncomfortable. Maybe he's looking a little froggy. I'm going to sit down because I'm a good person, and get stabbed, mugged, whatever. And by the way, this is a strategy. They call it the friendly stranger. There's a crew of them. They do this in Chicago. They stand outside bars, black people. They approach strangers. It's a robbery crew. And they pretend to be a friendly stranger, and then they mug them. And stupid white people say, oh, hi, yeah, nice to meet you. You know, they grin, they laugh, they put up with the nonsense, and then they get mugged, or worse. Sometimes they get executed. And so as a white person...
How do
I'm going to allow Piers.
you feel about mass shootings at school?
I think they're bad.
Who do you think commits the vast majority of the mass shootings?
I'm sure it's white people.
Right. So how do you feel about that?
I think that white people do more antisocial violence. I think black people participate in more gang violence. I think that's the difference.
What's the difference to the victims?
Yeah, what kind of difference are you making there?
There's no difference to the victim, but it's a different kind of crime, and it's a different proportion also. Do you know what percentage of white people are school shooters?
I know that the vast majority of mass shootings in schools in America this century were perpetrated by young white men. And I'm
what proportion?
I'm curious whether your advice would be to people who have kids in these schools. Is my mic working? Should they avoid white people at school? Should people with the kids at school avoid young white men at school?
No.
Okay.
Do you know what per capita means? Do you know proportionality? There are more black people proportionally that engage in violent crime or are involved in gangs, especially in these major cities, than there are white people that are school shooters compared to the entire.
But like white people that are school shooters that are doing mass shootings, in America is still extremely large rate compared to the rest of the world. Right now, I do think this year is the lowest it's been. I do think that's in part due to all the political violence that is happening, but it's a comparative analysis. This is something we don't want to happen, period, right? Because ultimately, the people you're comparing are still a minority of the population of Black people. The minority of percentage of Black people are committing these crimes. However, we don't want this to happen. We don't want this to be the case. So even though white people are doing a lot of crimes too, right? I know you're doing a comparison to like, oh, the level or the amount of Black people compared to the crime is Black people are bad. But what about all the white people that are committing the crime? Same crimes. And then worse crimes like mass shootings and being PDF files. What about all the comparative analysis in terms of the like Catholic priests that are fondling kids? What about all the white people that are rich that are fondling kids? What about all the corruption in Hollywood and in businesses that are white people doing some of the worst things possible? What about all the billionaires creating horrible situations that are more, the majority of them are white people? We're not focused on them, obviously. We don't focus on those people. Of course not. Because that doesn't fit into the narrative.
Entire white population, and everybody understands that.
Two-thirds of mass shootings at school perpetrated by white people.
But what proportion of white men commit school shootings? That's the question.
I've just told you. It's 60-65% of school shootings by white people.
You're telling me what proportion of school shootings are committed by white people. I'm saying what proportion of white people have committed school shootings. Are you playing dumb or are you just not that smart?
What difference does that make to the children lying dead on the ground?
See, now you want to jump on the victims. The difference is you're asking, would you fear white people?
Oh, that's what you were doing. You're playing with the victims as well. You're complaining and crying about, oh, these people all should be racist because of the fear of the friendly neighbor. And you use that as a means to push a narrative about how all these Black people are dangerous in Chicago. But when it comes to kids who are defenseless, who can't adhere to your advice, they are just sent from destination A to destination B, and they are left up in the care of the adults. A sanctuary of peace where they're there to learn. Oh, you're playing victim with those kids, though. You're playing victim then, even though I was just doing the exact same fucking thing. Interesting how that works.
Or Black people. And that's the difference. The
No,
difference
I'm
is
not. What I'm saying to you is by your logic, if we now have agreed that the vast majority of mass shootings in schools are committed by white people and predominantly young white men, then presumably your advice would be to avoid young white men because they perpetrate these massacres. But it won't be because they're white, right?
So are you playing dumb or are you actually dumb?
Maybe
it's
I'm
about
dumb.
proportionality.
Maybe I'm dumb.
You are because well, I don't think you are dumb. I think you're smart actually, but you're deliberately avoiding per capita. And everybody knows that's the difference. What proportion of white men are school shooters? It's probably 0.00001%. What proportion of Black men have committed violent crimes? It's probably like 5%. I guess I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but it's very high. And I would add to that, even as it concerns schools. Why do you think parents pay a super high property tax to live in a school district where there's white people? Because they know that if they go to the Black school, it's going to be the Bloods and the Crips. It's going to be gangs. It's going to be, you talk about school shootings. Nobody talks about all the school.
Oh, it's also because all these white schools have all the money. You know how systematic racism and slavery and Jim Crow laws and redlining and all that stuff made it very hard for Black people to garner wealth, and so it was a problem. That's why a lot of these areas that are poor are made with Black people, because white people wanted to keep them from gaining wealth and competing against the white people, the white master. So these white neighborhoods fund the schools. So of course these schools are going to have more resources generally, They're gonna have more white people. Like it's crazy how people that are like racist bigots like Fuentes struggle with context. It's crazy how that works. But hey, man, whatever fits the narrative. Let's create that white fascist national cultist ideology.
Shootings that are committed by gangbangers in and around the school, and all the other violence that's associated with that. I mean, these schools in the south side of Chicago, it's just not.
I have an answer for you, Nick. So the proportion of the population who carry out mass shootings is actually the same for black and white.
For white people, the proportion of
the proportion.
Again, are you hearing it? No.
So I think the trouble with your statistics is a lot of them don't bear much scrutiny. We have a bunch of fact checkers checking all this in real time because you do have a tendency to just come out with a lot of old baloney. And when you say,
okay,
well, it's true. And when you're confronted with reality, you don't like it.
What's the figure? What proportion of white people have committed school shootings? With white people as the denominator and white people that have committed school shootings as the numerator, what's that percentage?
For both black and whites, the proportion of the population who carry out mass shootings generally is about the same.
No. Tell me the number, and then
the only focus of your attention is the black shootings, the black crime. You don't want to live around black people. You want to avoid black people. You don't want interracial marriages or relationships that may produce black people. And yet, when I point out to you that there are many parts of crime in America where actually there's a majority of white people that perpetrate them, you don't care. You don't have any interest in that. It doesn't exercise your mind. Maybe because
no one's buying
this.
This argument.
And you know what's funny? You know what's hilarious? He uses that statistic about how, black people agree with me because they're so tired of black people committing crimes onto black people. You know, the majority of people that kill white people or commit crimes against white people are white people, right? But that logic is not equally applied to the white person. We know what is going on. This is not a analysis of the flaws of black culture and how it perpetuates a potential lifestyle that is not great. That's not the conversation, because we're not focusing on the factors that play into it. And trust me, there's a lot. No, this is a narrative trying to make black people the enemy, the criminals. They're the problem. This is an effective strategy for certain groups of people who genocided lots of other people. I want you to think about that.
Lost. No one is buying this. Everybody understands per capita, and people can even see what you race ahead and say, well, we're comparing the proportion of white and black school shooters. I said, no, compare the proportion of school shooters that are white versus violent criminals that are black, because that was the basis of the monologue, is that you're very likely, if you encounter black people or a young black man in the city, that you're going to be the victim of a violent crime, of a robbery, a mugging, a car theft, a carjacking, or a murder. That's the difference, and it's about proportionality. And everybody sees past that because we all live in reality. You want to talk about product of your environment. People that live in New York, Chicago, LA, we live in reality. We live in this environment. And we see what it's like. And the threat, the danger in terms of probability it's not even comparable. And I would say this to your point. If you're in a high school and truly, if you see a white person who looks like a little autistic, he's got the SSRI stare and he reaches for a backpack, people joke and say, run. Similarly, if you see a jalopy pulling up with a bunch of black people in it and they got their pants around the ankles, you're going to run also. And I'm saying the same thing. The difference is the latter happens much more often. It's much more common. In Chicago, there's like 10,000 carjackings and car thefts every day. It's in the thousands. It happens all the time. How many mass shootings?
And he's going to try to make you believe that only black people do this, even though a large percentage is white people. But he's going to try to make you believe that all crime is because of black people. That's how he's trying to frame the narrative. And then he can walk back and it's like, only most of them, only some of them. And then Piers Morgan will bring out the statistic. And then he said, nah, that's not true. I saw a different statistic.
things committed by autistic SSRI white people. I don't even know. I mean, it's probably in the single digits in the last decade in this city.
And to engage with this for the people who want nuance, I guess. Yeah, that happens. I'm okay with like stereotypical jokes. I'm fine with it. My favorite cartoon is South Park. I'm okay with it. This is not what is happening. Nick Fuentes is not saying this as a joke. He's not saying this as a defense mechanism, because stereotypes are a defense mechanism used in certain contextual situations based off either anecdotal or perceived experiences that align with certain actions. You can prepare yourself to deal with said circumstances, right? It's the same example as like a woman walking down the street and then there's like two big guys walking towards her with a mask on. You understand that there are certain cues of danger, so you, even though that this is not a statistic probability that leans into the majority of times that you're going to deal with circumstances like this, regardless, you need to be prepared just in case danger is there. Like, we all understand that. Both the jokes part and obviously having the defense preparation to deal with potential dangerous circumstances. That is not what is going on here. Let me be very clear. What is going on here is creating a narrative that applies in totality to all groups of people associated with the identity with lies and hyperbole. That he's not saying this in good faith.
That's the difference, and everybody knows that. But you're really just trying to carry water for liberal ideology. It's an ideological position.
I'm really not. I can absolutely say yes. There is way too much black on black crime, for example, involving guns in Chicago.
And black on white, also.
Yes, but there is way too much gun violence in Chicago. Right? I mean, it's indisputable. I've got no problem saying that. The difference is I don't then lead myself into a thought process where I have to avoid all black people in case they shoot me. And you've already conceded that you are a racist. So when people hear you then say, I don't want to be living anywhere near black people, they already have heard you say, I'm a racist. So they assume you're doing that because of people's skin color. I don't think you would probably dispute that, right?
Well, you're separating two different things. The monologue, when I said I don't want to live around black people, that was after Irina Zarutska got shot. And it's true. I mean, they are a largely in this city, in Chicago, the South Side, the West Side, huge criminal population.
They're not largely. The majority of them are not criminals. So that's just not true. Again, watch his language. Watch his language. He'll draw it back if Piers Morgan pressures them. And just because one situation with a black person doing a terrible thing, that motherfucker should get locked up. Like, you can just do that easily. I just saw a video recently of this big white dude having like 6 kids in his car and his zipper pointed down. Like, what the fuck were we doing? What about that white MAGA supporter who got pardoned from January 6th and then fondled the son of his ex-girlfriend? Oh my God. Like, what the fuck? This is so stupid.
And I don't want to live anywhere near it. And I do. I want to live in a white neighborhood. I think that that's extremely desirable. And I think even black people do.
Nick, you're perfectly entitled to that view. But when you have obviously prefaced all this by saying, I am a racist, unashamedly, then people will assume that all your thought processes about all of these issues are driven by an aversion to people based on their skin color, which is the purest personification of racism.
Well, it's not an aversion. I would say it's the opposite. I like my own people. My own people are familiar to me, and I think that's true across the board. I think that people seek out other people that are like themselves, and every other group does this, whether it's blacks, Hispanics, Asians. You know, I get a lot of attacks when I talk about that I'm against interracial marriage. And what's funny is that every other group is against interracial or interethnic marriage. Jews, Chinese,
you're the product of an interracial marriage.
Yeah, I mean, that's debatable.
Not
Let's
really.
say for the sake of argument, sure.
No, you're the product of an interracial marriage, and your father is part Mexican. You're literally,
for the sake of argument,
the very person you've just told me you want to avoid.
What race is Hispanic? Is that a race?
Well, what do you think it is?
I'm asking you, what race is Hispanic?
Hispanic, of course it's a race. It's called Hispanic.
It's a mix between two races. It's a mix between indigenous Americans and Europeans.
It's not white, though, is it? It's not white.
Well, you're more of a racial purist than me. You got like
not really. You just keep saying you only want to live in a white neighborhood, but you're literally from a mixed race background yourself. You've literally got Mexican blood.
I know, and I live in a non-white neighborhood too. I'm trying to get out of here, though. But I'm trying to get out. But here's the thing:
Do you have any non-white friends? Genuine question.
Most of my friends are non-white. Most of my friends are not, and non-white people love my show.
How many are black?
The honesty.
How many of your friends are black?
Many of them, like at least a dozen.
Wow.
Like, what? I don't give a fuck about who his friends are. Uncle Ruckus exists. I don't give a fuck if he has coon friends. The fuck? What do I give a shit about?
Ye being one who you know, Sneeko being another who you also know.
Yeah. And so how do they feel when you say you just want to be away from any black people, walk away from them?
Well, you know what Ye told me? I'll tell you verbatim what he said, that it doesn't come from a place of, and you use the word of.
Wow, you better use Kanye West's words. That's super reliable. Here we go.
Aversion. That's the first thing I'll actually dispute.
Okay.
It's not an aversion on the basis of skin color, because that would seem to suggest it's like a stubborn, irrational bigotry. I don't consider myself a bigot. I consider myself a racial realist. I'm realistic about how the races are, and I speak provocatively about it. And I speak provocatively about our tribalistic instincts and tendencies as human beings. And I'm not a liberal ideologue that says that over time and with enough education, we're all going to see this great brotherhood where we're colorblind and everybody's the same. You know, I don't think that's ever going away. I think that race is real. It's not just skin deep. It matters to us and it matters to each other. And black people know that, and Hispanics know that, and Asians know that, and people like me that have partial Mexican ancestry, we know that too. And I think on that basis, we can have mutual respect and understanding.
No, race has nothing to do with any of this shit. It's based on how you grow up in your culture. That's it. There's a reason why someone like Barack Obama would be very different from like a black person from Chicago, but that black person from Chicago will be very similar from a white person from Chicago in the same area. He will not be similar to Barack Obama. Now, there are certain cues that you can assign based off how media and entertainment has shaped the culture, but ultimately, in terms of similarities and likeliness, you're like people that grew up like you and think like you. It's beyond race. It's more so environmental factors. So yeah, that's just a lazy thing to say because Nick Fuentes doesn't think beyond 1 + 1 = 2. So no, that's just not how it works.
Not aversion based on.
Now, I do want to preface this for some people who struggle to understand this type of information. The most common way for the environmental factors to associate with people like you are people who typically look like you. But that doesn't mean that it is an absolute truth just because they look like you. They are like you. Okay? All right? Because we also understand how human evolution played into people grew up in certain environments, which played into how their biology transformed. So of course we understand that, right? Which okay, I don't know if I have to keep on explaining very simple things.
On skin color.
The reason I use the word aversion is you literally said that you should walk the other way if you see black people. That is an aversion to black people based on their skin color.
No, that's called economy of information. That's economy of information. That's safety. And I said in the same monologue, if you watch it, it's like, I feel sorry. The problem is you clip the 10 seconds. I don't know if you watched the whole show, but in that monologue, I said, most black people are not violent or criminals. I said, and it's unfortunate that we're going to offend them when we turn and walk the other way. I said, but the problem.
Got him. And this is how he manipulates the groypers. He can walk back his statement as much as he wants once he's faced with a little pressure. Well, I'm not talking about all black people. I'm not talking about all Jews. I'm not talking about all women. I'm just talking about the percentage that's problematic. While also saying stuff like, I don't want my daughter to marry a black person. Most black people are criminals in Chicago. I'm a racist against black people. So he says all these other things, but then walks it back. Most aren't problematic. Get the fuck out of here, boy. Don't let white people manipulate you like this. Come on. Come on. He's not as smart as he makes himself seem. Don't let them manipulate you like this.
Problem is, we don't know. We can't tell. And someone like Irina Zarutska, she sat down in front of a black man with her headphones in and wasn't paying attention because she was being a good liberal and said, I'm not uncomfortable by this. I'm progressive. Then she got stabbed in the neck. And I said, it's unfortunate that you would have to sit behind the black man to be safe. And if he
says majority. So the majority of white people aren't criminals, but they still do a lot of the crime. They still do more of the crime than black people because, one, there's more of them, but they still do more of it. So the likelihood of me meeting a criminal walking by obviously depends on where I'm at, but based off like probability, it's the people that do more of the crime, not the percentage. The percentage doesn't matter. That's the likeliness of me meeting a specific sect and the chances of them being a criminal. The likeliness of me meeting people in general, a white person is more likely to be a criminal than a black person. But again, math only works when I want it to work. 2 times 2 equals 4. When I want it to equal 4.
not violent or schizophrenic, he might be offended by that. I said, but I would rather offend him than die.
How many deranged white men have committed atrocious acts of murder in the last 10 years in America?
Proportionally far fewer.
But
far fewer.
How many? Do you know how many?
You have a research team. You pull it up.
I mean, you're very big. You're obviously extremely exercised by that one story, which was horrific for the record. Absolutely horrific and should never have happened. The person who perpetrated that evil act had a string of previous offenses and should have been picked up more, and it should have been amplified more. I completely concur with all of that. But I just suspect you have no idea how many white people have committed similar crimes, do you?
No, because I know it's far fewer from experience. Because it's like you said. Well, and hang on. And I would add to that, you know, Irina Zarutska was.
So, this is the FBI statistics, right? I do think it's unfortunate that black people do certain level of crimes. I'm not here to cap. I don't lie. I only tell the truth. The truth hurts, which is why so much people are mad in my comment sections quite often, because the truth does hurt. The reality that is facing you right in the mirror by these lips and this great goatee and this amazing shirt is pissing you off. So you got to find the people that agree with you. Well, I don't give a fuck about none of that. None of that. We care about facts. We care about truth. We care about reality. Now, I mean, if you just go through a lot of this, it is unfortunate that obviously charges offered, white people, a lot of them, way more, but percentage, she's going to use probability, but probability doesn't matter when you're walking across the street. You're really just thinking about the chances I'm going to meet a criminal. The chances you're going to meet a criminal is mostly going to be white. But yeah, this one, it's unfortunate. Black people are bad when it comes to this one. They lead here. Obviously, this one, when I was talking about the sexual ones, white people definitely lead there. Robbery, black people lead because for the most part, these are like poor area crimes, right? Where they're trying to get a leg up using these crimes. Now, white people live in these areas too, which is why they still have a lot. And I don't dismissing this means nothing. But this is crimes. It doesn't matter your wealth level or demographic. This is just disgusting behavior, right? Burglary, obviously. Aggravated assault, obviously, so much ahead. Larceny/theft, so much ahead. Motor vehicle theft, so much ahead. Arson, so much ahead. Violent crime in general, so much ahead. Property crime, so much ahead. Other assaults, so much ahead. Like, in general, white people just do more crimes because there's more of them, obviously. But if you understand the reality that the majority of black people are not criminals, then you would understand why this is a ridiculous statement to make. Because I understand the majority of white people aren't criminals, but there's more white people in America. So for me, especially being the other race and the growing sentiment of like racist rhetoric from the white side, the chances of me just encountering people in a Walmart that's filled with more white people is that I'm more likely to deal with a white criminal, especially in certain areas. In a big city, maybe it might be black, but in the South, in the Midwest, come on, talk to me nicely. What the fuck are we talking about? So this is just a whole, none of this makes sense. And then all these groypers, all these morons are going to go like, but percentage. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Just because, I already explained. I'm not going to repeat myself.
Wasn't the first one. That was also after Austin Metcalf was killed in Texas.
Sure.
After
But how
Carmelo
many
Anthony
times has it
stabbed
been
him in the neck.
perpetrated by white people?
Well, hang on. Let me finish my point.
But you're
And then
implying
not
that
only
white
did-
people don't do this. And my point to you, Nick
Okay.
Fuentes, is of
Yeah.
course,
Oh, I never said white people
of
don't do
course,
it.
deranged white people commit heinous acts. But you don't either
No
know,
disagreement.
you neither know nor care, or maybe both. Maybe you do know and don't care. You only seem to be focused on black people who commit crimes. And again, if you hadn't prefaced the whole debate about racism by openly conceding you are a racist, I could read other connotations into what you've been saying. But once you've said,
Okay.
I'm a racist, and then you only talk about black crime, I think people can watch this and they can say, yeah, he's a racist. And everything that he says about crime is driven through the prism of being a racist who judges people according to their skin color.
Well,
Piers
it's funny
Morgan's
because
spoken.
it's quite on the contrary. And I said this in a similar monologue. You know, the problem is not that I wake up and I walk down the street and I see someone that doesn't look like me and it makes me angry. The problem is there's a pattern of behavior, which we've all seen. Blacks in America have become narcissistic, and they become narcissistic because they've been told they're victims of racism, they're victims of slavery. They've been told really there's no accountability. If they're rude, if they're inconsiderate, if they're criminal, they are told that they have no agency for their actions. They're being told if you act in this way, it's because the white man.
There are people on the far left that say this, and they are victims of slavery and racism. Now, is it direct victimization? No, but those stuff happen. Those have trickle-down effects. So yeah, the far left does say stuff like that, and I do think that is cringe, 100%. Are you keeping the right accountable? Are you going like, hey, all the people on the right that are feeling entitled, oh no, because they're white Christian nationalists like you're not going to hold them accountable because they're like you and you want a country filled with white Christian nationalists. Ah, hypocrisy. I get it. I understand. Cool.
And made you that way. It's because the system's rigged against you. And so we have been telling black people this for a generation, and now there's no rules. Now they go, and what we hate to see as decent people, not even as white people, but decent people, even black people too, what we hate to see is rudeness, obnoxiousness, inconsideration, criminality, violence. And that's that pattern of behavior that we see.
Even though he said the majority of black people are not like this, but apparently there's a pattern. It's just none of these logic chains plan out. They just don't. They just don't plan out.
All over social media, on
So
the
just to
body
be clear,
cam footage,
you
on
don't
cops.
like black people who play the victim and are rude. Is that your position?
I don't like that pattern of
And
behavior.
who are
of-
narcissists?
I see where this is going.
Yeah,
Are
you're
you
ahead
going
of
to
me.
turn this around on
You're
me?
ahead of me, aren't you? Because when I said,
Very
what
clever.
black friends have you got? You said,
I
yay,
am kind of black,
yay.
aren't I?
No, not that. You said,
Oh, yay
I'm not
also.
saying you. I'm just saying your choice of black friend is Ye, who is arguably the number one black victimhood narcissist in America. Do you understand the problem? So he's
Well,
your
no.
friend. He's one of the very few black people you want to be associated
Oh.
with, but he's the epitome of what you just said you abhor about narcissistic black people.
I disagree.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm following the conversation. I can do all of Piers Morgan's talking points. That one I didn't even think about. I'm gonna have to give Piers Morgan a golf clap for that one. That didn't even register in my mind. Maybe it's because Piers Morgan has beef with Ye. I don't know if you guys saw the interview where Ye I'm calling Kanye. I don't give a fuck. Where Kanye walked off the interview because he didn't like Piers Morgan's questions. So maybe he has a little beef with Kanye. That's a really good question to ask. The whole idea is like, oh yeah, black people have done this. They become ignorant, obnoxious, all the worst stereotypes about people. And then he's friends with Kanye West. That's actually pretty good, Piers Morgan. That was funny. That was funny. And that shot hit. Because Nick Fuentes is starting to stutter. Well, I mean, yay. Yeah, good shit, Piers. Good
Agree
shit.
with you, and I'll tell you why. Because Ye, if you've ever met him in real life,
I have, yeah.
Okay, well then you know he's nothing but polite, considerate.
Actually, he was very rude to me the last 2
My
times I
friends are
interviewed him.
polite.
He's a supreme narcissist, and he's
Well,
also.
you keep interrupting me. You're very rude. Are you black?
I
Because you're being very
apologize.
rude by
I
interrupting me right
apologize
now.
to you.
I'm giving you a hard time, but I
Okay, you're
do
not
want to
giving me a
finish
hard
my
time.
point. I do want to finish my point about Ye. He is the guy who, when I was with him, wanted to make sure that everybody was heard. Everybody felt included. He's actually a very soft-spoken guy, very polite. And by the way, not violent. When you look at all the rappers that are in the music game, many of them, especially from Chicago, drill rap, they're talking about killing people, shooting people, they gangbang. He notably, if you know about him, he got his start because he was a nerd. He wore a backpack and a polo, and he wasn't a gangbanger. He rapped about his feelings and girls and his dreams and his ambitions. So no, and by the way, he would tell me all the time, he doesn't even feel black. They make him feel not black because he doesn't do those things, because he's soft-spoken, because he's artistic, because he's a bit of a nerd or likes fashion.
Kanye West called himself Jesus Christ. And he's not a narcissist? Are we serious? Are we dead ass right now? Who calls himself Jesus? Nah, this is not a serious conversation. As a Christian, you should be ashamed of yourself. You're supposed to not believe in false gods. You should be looking down on people who believe in false idols or consider themselves God or a false idol. All right, bro.
And so I would disagree. He's actually not like that at all. What
Okay.
we're talking about
He's also a Hitler-loving anti-Semite. And we're going to take a little commercial break here, and we're going to come back about and talk about anti-Semitism and your views about Jewish people, and indeed what Ye said about the same subject matter. Angel Studios are back with a new must-see documentary. It's called Thank You, Dr. Fauci, and you're going to hear a lot more about it over the next few months. Award-winning filmmaker Jenna Furst digs into the origins of COVID-19, a possible bio-arms race with China, and claims about history's biggest public health cover-up. It's not a right-wing film or a left-wing film. It's a film about transparency, which is something we should all care about. Furst pulls over documents and interrogates scientists, intelligence professionals, and whistleblowers. It's being described as Oppenheimer meets Outbreak. And if you've ever wondered what really happens behind closed doors, you'll want to see it. Angel Studios is powered by its guild members voting on real stories.
That's unfortunate. I think I watched a movie from Angel recently. It was a good movie. But now they're going to push out COVID propaganda. It's like, all right, bro. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
You can find out more at angel.com/peers. Become a member, stream. In your interview with Stephen Crowder last week, you answered emphatically that you don't hate all Jews. Is that correct? That's your position?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to play you this clip.
Well, I don't hate any Jew. Let me just amend that. I don't hate any Jews.
Okay. Let's play this clip.
The reason I've had it is because my opposition to world Jewry and Israel is rooted in absolute, uncontestable fact. We have the truth on our side. That's why we're winning. Because we are telling the truth about the historical antagonism between Jews and Europeans, between Jews and Christians. The theological, historical, racial, cultural, and political antagonisms between organized Jewry and the Christians, organized Jewry and Europeans. And the reason that we are winning that argument is because it's real, it's true. I can prove it. I can show you. I can name the names. I can show you the paper trail, the money. That is why we're winning. That is why all of this is raising the consciousness.
When you say you have this opposition to world Jewry, I mean, it's one thing to criticize, for example, the Israeli government over what it's been doing in Gaza.
You're right back.
When you talk about world Jewry, I presume you're talking about the 15 million Jews in the world, and you are opposed to them. How does that square with your position that you don't hate any Jews?
Well, do you take issue with my use of the term world Jewry?
Well, what do you mean by that?
Or do you take issue with it? Do you have a problem with that?
Clarify what you mean by it.
Well, it's funny you bring that up. The gaslighting's crazy because I use that expression on my show all the time. I say organized Jewry, world Jewry. And do you know that for like 30 years, the World Jewish Congress has an annual keynote called The State of World Jewry. Barry Weiss has given it. You can look it up. It's on YouTube. She gives the State of World Jewry address.
But Nick, what do you mean by it?
I mean, you have to talk about, there's a concept of Jewish peoplehood. It's the sense that they are part of a common nationality, a common tribe, a common people. And so where they reside in Israel, the United States, or Europe, or elsewhere, they see each other above, or maybe on a different level, alongside their nationality, their state, wherever they reside. If they're in Germany, France, the United States, they see themselves as part of a transnational nation, of an international nation. The Jews in America, the Jews in Israel, they identify as Israeli or American, but they also have something in common. They identify as part of a common nation, which I would say there's a world Jewish population. It's world Jewry. And world Jewry has representatives. There is such a thing as the World Jewish Congress.
All right, let me articulate exactly what he's doing here. He's trying to normalize the phrase because it's used amongst the people themselves. I don't know if this is true, and my default is to believe Nick Fuentes is lying. It's kind of similar to the idea, but not on the same wavelength. This is just an analogy of like Black people using the N-word versus everybody else using the N-word. There's a different context. There's a different intent on using the word. It means something different when different people use it, right? So in terms of this conversation, Fuentes, he's only using this as a malicious means to differentiate Jewish people amongst the rest of the populations as an other. So yeah, he's trying to play it coy, but good war for me, brother.
Where they actually elect, it's democratic. All the local Jewish organizations elect representatives to represent proportionally the Jewish population in their area at the World Jewish Congress. And it's sort of like Davos. It's like the World Economic Forum, but it's exclusively for members of the Jewish nation that exists across the world. And so that's a real thing. And I didn't make that up, and that didn't come from 4chan. It's like I said in that clip, I read what they write. I read their books. I watch these speeches. I watch a speech from Barry Weiss. I pay very close attention. So that's what I mean by that. There is such a thing as it's a nation that exists across borders on a global scale. They're organized, and they have a national self-interest as that nation, as that tribe.
So if you don't hate any Jews, what do you like about them?
I like a lot of things about them. I think they're funny. I think they're smart. I think that they're pretty remarkable people. And as Christians, especially as Catholics, we say they're remarkable. And this has been adjudicated in Catholic doctrine for thousands of years. We say that they're a witness people. And so we actually, there's provisions inside of Catholic doctrine that says we need to give them special protections because they were a witness to Christ's passion. So, this is why you can't clip the show. You have to watch the whole thing. I say this repeatedly in interviews. I do think they're remarkable. By definition, they're exceptional people. It's just that there is a sort of natural opposition between them and Christians because of the theology. We believe that Christ is a Messiah. They don't. They have been a minority in Christian lands for thousands of years, and they have been pushed around and expelled, and they've been persecuted and segregated. And that's why there's a lot of paranoia. There's a lot of distrust. There's maybe some sense of chauvinism among Jewish people. So there is, like I said in that clip, there is an historical antagonism between these two peoples, between Christendom and Jewry, and that has always been the case in Europe. But I don't hate them, and I think I actually sort of understand them in a weird way. I think that because I've studied a lot of their politics, I think I really kind of know them in a way, and it doesn't come from a place of hatred.
Do you have any Jewish friends?
This is what pisses me off. Because this really tells you how evil or disingenuous someone is. When someone understands the historical context, but doesn't care. Because the way he messages, and I think it says a lot because all of his Groyper followers all just hate on Jewish people. Like, that's all they do in my comment section and in other comment section. They obviously get that from somewhere. Right? If they start talking about the idea of like Jewish people running the world, I'll give my take on that, but it's just disingenuous. Like, I understand the context. I understand they were persecuted. I understand they were killed. They were a minority. They were thrown around by different countries. I understand all of that, but like, I don't give a fuck. Jews suck. Like, come on, bro.
I do. I have many, yes.
But that's weird because you said this.
Jews and Christians have never been friends, ever. Not since Jesus Christ fought with the Pharisees. have we ever been friends. Not since Saul was leading the charge persecuting the Christians. Not since the Roman Empire, not since the Middle Ages. Never. We've never been friends. We've never been allies. We've always been set against each other, actually. And even here in the United States, it was communist Jews who were the architects of both communism and the civil rights laws that are dispossessing white Christians of their land and civilization.
So Jews and Christians have never been friends ever, except for you and your Jewish friends.
Yeah, so easy. As peoples, as nations.
Got it.
Not saying every individual Christian. And of course, there have been Christians and there have been Christian converts to Judaism, Jewish converts, Christian. You're nodding your head.
See, tries to make himself seem reasonable, capture you in, and then manipulates you with cult-like rhetoric to turn you against a specific group of people. Fuentes is evil, and he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. That was very good on Piers Morgan to very clearly call it out. He wants to make himself seem reasonable. Oh, I understand the history of Jewish people and how they're persecuted. Matter of fact, I have some Jewish friends. Piers Morgan pulls out the clip. All Jews and Christians can't be friends. They can't. They can't be friends. The Jews are the problem, are what it's in the way of white Christians, and have been problematic with, like, what he said, communism and certain civil rights stuff. The Jews have been in the way. Making it very clear his intent. Jews are the cause of all white Christians' problems. That's what he's trying to insinuate.
But you're asking this. I'm saying as peoples, they've
No,
never
I hear
been
you.
aligned.
I'm a Catholic like you, and I have many Jewish friends. I'm just trying to compute what you're trying to say, which is Jews and Christians have never been friends ever. And I'm like, well, you have Jewish friends. I have Jewish friends. We're both Catholics. Therefore, we're Christians. So it doesn't really quite add up.
Well, like I said, as peoples, there has been an historical antagonism as peoples. And you could even say the same about blacks in the United States. Of course, there were black and white people that were friendly with each other, but in many ways, they were set against each other as groups. And I think that's easy enough to understand.
The reason that many people think you're anti-Semitic is that you have regularly downplayed the Holocaust, and in particular, the number of Jewish people who were murdered by the Nazis. It's been said that you believe no more than several 100,000 have been killed. And I'm going to play you this clip.
People talk about, well, what about the gas chambers? Well, to the extent that that's real, I find that hard to believe, but to the extent that's real, there have been atrocities committed and genocides committed in all times and all places. Let's acknowledge why Hitler casts the long shadow, because that confers a political benefit upon Jews. That's why.
It doesn't really sound correct to me. Wait a second. It takes 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies, and you have 15 ovens, probably in 4 different kitchens, right? Doing 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years. How long would it take you to make 6 million? I don't know. It certainly wouldn't be 5 years, right? The math doesn't seem to add up there.
You think that's funny?
It's funny. It's amusing what you're doing because, that one was a joke. But do you want to talk seriously about the Holocaust?
Yeah, I do, actually. I do, because I just find it extraordinary that you would think the Holocaust could ever be something that we could joke about.
Why, too soon? Is it too soon to make jokes?
How many people do you think died in the Holocaust? How many Jewish people?
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe 7 million. What's the number? 7, 6 million, something like that.
So you
8 million?
You concede that 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust?
Possibly more. Possibly, we're discovering all the time. So it could be, maybe even be more than that.
So why have you doubted the numbers in the past?
I'll tell you why. I really think that every death is a tragedy. However many Jewish people died in the Holocaust.
Bro, he is grifting so hard to keep on gaining political power. I think he realized that he's now starting to get mainstream, so he's trying to seem more reasonable. It's just so disgusting, bro. This is really Donald Trump 2.0. This is disgusting.
Holocaust. And I'm not a World War II historian, so I'm actually open to believing the official narrative, and I've read some of the conspiracy theories. And to tell you the truth, it's a rigorous debate. But what's interesting about this is in many countries, it's not even legal to talk about it. And that's really where my interest in the Holocaust begins and sort of ends, to tell you the truth, is that if you wanted to question the number, you would be put in jail in about, 17 or 18 European countries. And I think that's really the more interesting conversation, which is that this is almost like a religious dogma in the West. No other genocide, no other atrocity is treated like this. Could you imagine if in the United States they said the number of Palestinians killed in Gaza is 100,000, and if you don't say that, you're going to jail, you're banned on X, you can't have a job? That's the part that's totally insane. And a lot of people, they can't even make up their minds. I think it's actually done a disservice. If your goal, and I'm not saying you as Piers Morgan, but if your goal, if you're an advocate for awareness about this, if your goal is to convince everybody that this is the way the Holocaust happened, I think the last thing you'd want to do is say that everyone that disagrees is in jail and is banned and you're not allowed to say it. So there's really been no open debate about the subject since the scholarship started to be produced about 60 years ago.
There is no debate to be had about the number of people who were murdered. Even the Nazis in the trials after the war confirmed the numbers. The amount of documentation that was recovered.
I'm not gonna lie. If you want to feel sick to your stomach, there are certain things that I don't think people realize when it comes down to the Holocaust, because I think people are pretty much set in their understanding. Like, people died in these concentration camps and these gas chambers, but there was like horrific things done to these people. The experimentation done to these people, there's just the worst things you can think of were done to these innocent people. So again, the fact that we're still undermining just tells you how ignorant, how entitled and spoiled some of these Groyper pathetic virgins really are.
Notwithstanding the attempts by the Nazis to destroy it, the amount of documentation that was saved and preserved and used for trials and for historical record is unprecedented in the history of mass slaughter of human beings. So we have a very clear idea of how many people were gassed to death in the gas chambers. We have a very clear idea of how many were starved to death, were kept in ghettos, died of disease, of forced labor, of death marches. We know how many Jews were slaughtered. It's at least 6 million. What's interesting to me is that you appear to now concede that, which may be news to a lot of your regular viewers who have constantly heard you quibble with the number of Jews who died in the Holocaust. And for the record, just to confirm what I think you told me, you do now accept that at least 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust.
Well, no, I said it could even be higher than
well,
that.
It could be higher. That is
I think
true.
it's at least.
But you
I think you're
accept
right.
at least.
It is at least. Oh, it's at least 6 million. But
Okay.
it could be 100
Well,
times
people
more
are
than
going to
that.
be okay. The people are going to be.
Let me respond to the rest of your question.
Sure.
What you're saying, I understand where you're coming from when you say it has been documented and there are confessions and so on. Let that speak for itself. But you don't see, your show is called Piers Morgan Uncensored.
Yep.
But the United Kingdom is censored and Europe is censored. And if you talk about these things, you will be put in jail in many countries. And I think that's where a lot of people start to say, well, if the truth is so clear and if there's such overwhelming evidence, why do you need to throw people in jail for disagreeing? And you yourself said, well, there is no debate. I think everything is debatable. I think everything at least should be debated. And if the evidence is very one-sided, let the evidence speak.
But I think there's something to be said about free speech laws. But like, other than the legality behind this conversation, my question to you guys, if your family was gruesomely murdered, and it's pretty clear who did it, it's pretty clear what happened, the evidence is available, but for some reason, there's a group of people that continues to deny it, says it never happened, you're lying, you're full of shit, and makes up all these conspiracies about it. How would you feel? Not whether or not you would allow free speech. The question is, how would you feel about that? And maybe that will help you understand some of the feeling behind the Holocaust. Like 1% of the feeling, considering it's way less people.
Don't throw people in jail. So do you think that Holocaust denial laws should be overturned?
I don't particularly agree with Holocaust denial laws. I don't think people should be imprisoned.
Okay.
Well, because I have a blanket view now, which has evolved slightly actually over the years, that I have a blanket view that speech should not be criminalized. Right? People should be allowed to say what they want to say, and they should be then made accountable for what they say. If you have an employer, they can make a view about whether you are the right kind of person they want for their employment, as they would make a decision about anything else you do in life. So I actually believe that speech should never be criminalized. It's my personal view. I understand why in places like Germany, they have strong laws about it because they want to move on from what they believe was the most shameful moment in their history. I understand that. Do I want that in my country? No. Am I appalled by what has been going on with free speech in the United Kingdom in the last 2 or 3 years? Absolutely. It is ridiculous that people have been frog marched to prison cells for stuff they put on social media. Right? So yeah, I do. I think what is more interesting to me about our exchange is I was not expecting you to go the opposite way. I was not expecting you to be so emphatic that at least 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust. There'll be people watching this who I think will be very surprised by that, because you have built a reputation for being.
And then he's gonna completely 180 once he has that audience. Then his little bubble. And that little bubble, he's gonna radicalize them.
If not a Holocaust denier, then somebody constantly questioning in a downward way the number of Jews who were murdered. That doesn't appear to be what your position is now.
No, and here's what I would like to see for my entire career. When I started my show, it started with a good faith inquiry where I was questioning a lot of these narratives. And I said, what is the answer on the other side? But what I found is that the answer was criminalized. So when you would talk about anything regarding Jews, Israel, the Holocaust, you could be in favor of the official narrative on those things. If you went against, you were banned, censored, and in some countries jailed. And so I actually haven't made up my mind on that because that's not really a matter of interest to me. And there's a lot of analysis and scholarship on both sides of the issue. And I've read both sides of the issue. And honestly, unfortunately, it's hard to judge because there has never been a debate on it. And there's never been a debate because of the stigma, because of the censorship. And I think that leads a lot of people to say, well, what do they have to hide? Because you can say on your show, well, I'm personally against Holocaust denial laws, yet they still persist and the social consequences still persist. And I think that is the anomaly. And people have to wonder, okay, why is it that way? And what I said in that clip is the reason the Holocaust casts a long shadow is because it confers a political benefit upon organized Jewry. That is what they always fall back on. They cannot be criticized. They cannot be named. They cannot be talked about lest there be another Holocaust. And no other tragedy is treated that way. And no other ethnic group has a get out of jail free card. Just play that. Anti-Semitism and Holocaust. You can do whatever you want and defend all your actions. That's the part that people are getting upset with. That's the problem.
I don't know any right-minded person who believes that Jewish people weaponized the Holocaust for their own personal get out of jail free or whatever you called it.
You don't know anyone that does that? That believes that?
I'm sure there are some people that do that, but it's such a ridiculous generalization. You know, the truth is that most Jewish people have lost relatives in the Holocaust. In fact, I want to play you two clips. One is where you talk about Adolf Hitler.
Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he was also really fucking cool. So, time to grow up. We're not children anymore. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right, boys? Am I right? Let's go. He was also really fucking cool.
Do you regret saying that?
Saying a fact? No, that's absolutely true.
You think Hitler was very fucking cool?
Yo, this is so ridiculous, bro. This is so ridiculous.
Cool.
Yes, I do.
One of them,
and I'm tired of pretending he's not.
Well,
to be honest,
this is the problem. You see, it's a bit like when you just say, "I'm a racist." You're a racist who thinks Hitler's cool, but you're not anti-Semitic. If you're a Jewish person watching this, what are they thinking? I'll tell you what they're thinking, because I've got a friend of mine called Danny Finkelstein, who, when he heard I was interviewing you, he's a Times journalist in the UK, very eminent journalist here, and author, who wrote a book about his own family's experiences at the hands of Hitler and Stalin, because you also told Tucker Carlson that you admire Stalin. But let's just tell you what Danny said here.
Hi Piers, it's Danny Finkelstein here. As you're interviewing Nick Fuentes, you might try suggesting to him that he reads my book, Hitler, Stalin, Mum and Dad. It's called Two Roads Home in the United States. Since he says he's on Team Hitler, you might like to ask him about the fact that Hitler arrested my mum, tried to starve my mum to death, did starve my grandmother to death, sent my great aunt to the gas chamber, my great uncle, my cousin. My grandmother on my father's side ended up being one out of 7 children, the only one that survived the war. So you might ask him whether he wouldn't rather be on Team Mum rather than Team Hitler. And as for celebrating Stalin's birthday, well, Stalin took my father, sent him to a state collective farm, sent my grandmother and to a state collective farm, sent my grandfather to the Gulag. You might try asking him why he doesn't celebrate Dad's birthday rather than Stalin's. It may all be a big joke to him, but he complains that he was 18 when someone tried to cancel him. Well, Stalin and Hitler arrested my mum and my dad when they were 10 years old. So perhaps he might like to reconsider his joke.
Damn. See, that's the reality of your jokes, although I haven't ascertained
He
yet
does
whether
not
you
care,
are
'cause
joking
he's
when you
evil.
say that Hitler was very fucking cool. Are you joking, or do you actually think he was very fucking cool? The most
He was
genocidal
cool.
monster of the last 150 years.
Yeah, the thing is, my generation, we're just done with the pearl clutching. You know,
Yeah, you
we
might be,
make
but then your generation hasn't gone through what Danny Finkelstein's family went through. So
Yeah.
maybe the pearl clutching has a way to go for families whose family members
Oh my
were
gosh,
murdered.
yeah, we got all that. We, you know, me mom, like we're, you know, I don't even know who this person is. Why is this person talking to me? This old British guy is saying me mom got killed by Hitler.
Because
And
he doesn't
me dad
find
got
it
killed
funny
by...
when you say Hitler's very fucking
I don't
cool.
care.
He finds it
I don't
I know
care.
you don't care. That's fine. You don't have to care. But he does care.
Does that guy care about America? Does that guy care about me and my country and my family?
No, I don't want you out of my fucking country. I want to be very clear. Nick Fuentes is evil. This guy's evil. He is a piece of garbage who was raised like a bigot, grew up a bigot, had bigot views, was tossed aside, and just became more of a bigot in his little bubble. And somehow he grown prominence. It's crazy how radicalism grows like a disease. And now the internet is the perfect environment for it to become a cancer.
No,
He cares what you,
that's
a
the
prominent
problem.
conservative in America, has to say about Adolf Hitler. And what do you mean by Hitler is very fucking cool? Because I think he's very fucking a monster.
Okay. And that's a clip. I think he's very fucking a monster. Do you hear yourself?
Yeah, I
mean,
do.
can we all grow up?
I do.
Can we all grow
He
up?
murdered
That
12
is just
million people.
childish.
He murdered 12 million
Okay.
people. What is very fucking cool about that? Tell me.
The edits, it's just cool. The uniforms, the parades, it's cool as a guy. You look at World War II and it's fascinating and it's interesting and it's compelling and it's cool. And, you know, we're just tired of saying these kinds of things. We want to talk like real people.
Guys don't think this is cool. I just want to. Guys that actually fucked a woman don't think this is cool.
And give our honest opinions, and then we literally get an old Jewish guy from England who's going to say, "Oh, that's not very funny, mate. Me mom," and it's like, shut up. Like, you know, no one is in favor of genocide, so let's just get that out of the way. We're not in favor of a Holocaust or genocide.
Do you think if half your family
years ago,
you think if half your family had been wiped out by very fucking cool Hitler, you'd still think he was very fucking cool? Or would you think that actually he was a despicable monster who murdered 12 million people, who targeted people because they were disabled or Jewish or Romani Gypsy or whatever it may be, and that he systematically destroyed people, incinerated them in gas chambers? Do you think that you would find it very fucking cool if your family had been through that? Or do you think you would find it very fucking disgusting? And perhaps moderate the number of times you laugh about it or want to joke about it or want to abuse someone like Danny Finkelstein, who's written incredibly powerful books about what happened to his extended family at the hands of the Nazis and your other hero, Stalin. See, my point to you, Nick Fuentes, is that in parts of this interview, you try to come across as moderate, but every now and again, the mask slips. And it slipped again here with what you say about Hitler. There's nothing very fucking cool about Hitler. We know that from history now. We know what he did. You've already conceded that he murdered at least 6 million Jews. So when you say he's very fucking cool, Jewish people watch this and go, this guy's disgusting. Why would he say this about someone who perpetrated such an evil? And what's the real answer? Why do you? Is it just for clicks? Is it for money? Is it just for fun? Shits and giggles? What is it? What motivates you to say something like Hitler was very fucking cool?
Oh, I was muted. Oops.
it's for this. It's for all of this. And the lack of self-awareness is amazing. You're a boomer. You're a 60-year-old boomer. And we spent maybe 3 minutes on you saying, he's a really fucking monster. He incinerated people. And I'm sitting here saying it's not that serious. It's not that deep. And
Not that
what
serious.
I'm getting at.
Not that
Okay.
serious.
Do you want to say more about
Well,
he's a monster?
you're not a kid yourself anymore. You're not a teenager.
I know.
Right?
I know.
You're nearly 30, to be clear.
Yeah,
Okay? You're a
I
fully
know.
formed adult who has a brain, right? And at some stage, that brain has taken you off these
Is
rabbit
this an
warrens.
interview or is this a lecture? Can I respond to what you're saying?
I want you
in
to
full?
I want you to explain why you think it's fine to say how fucking cool Hitler is and to dismiss the very powerful 90 seconds from a British journalist who lost a lot of family members to the Nazis in such a callous, dismissive manner.
I don't think it's powerful. I think we've been hearing that our entire lives. Okay, the Schindler's List. Let's just be honest. The propaganda is over the top. We have been brought in America.
What about the Schindler's
everywhere.
List? Tell me about the Schindler's List. Well, tell me about the Schindler's List.
I'll tell you about it. We have been browbeaten as a people, as Americans, as Westerners, for our entire lives. And you know what this has done? It has taken away any sense of pride, any sense of love for our own civilization. We have been made the villain in our own story. We have been made because, well, let's just.
What the fuck? Who's we? Who's we? Who are you talking about? Are you a Nazi? Is that the hero you're talking about?
Just be clear. It doesn't begin and end with Hitler is a monster. This has been the political narrative, which is why we have thrown open the borders. This is a political narrative, which is why we can't be a conservative society as a whole anymore, why we can't be proud of Europeans, why we can't be proud of being Christian, because they've told us if you're too white and too proud and too Christian, it's going to lead to a Holocaust. And so my generation, our entire lives.
Honestly, Nick
Fuentes, and that's why people like me. That's why I'm popular, because this is bullshit. Honestly, yeah, it's a crock. We don't want to hear anymore about me mom and me dad.
Listen. What you just said is a crock of shit. And you know
true.
It.
It's called the open society.
In your gut, you know it is. You weaponize this stuff. You weaponize this stuff for money, but you know when you say something like what you just said.
I'm banned from banking. I'm banned from banking and credit cards. You know who you're talking to? I do it for money. How much money you make? Your company's worth $100 million. Your company's worth $100 million. I was banned from Bank of America. I'm banned from processing credit cards.
And you shouldn't have been.
But I am. So don't tell me I'm doing it for money.
Well, ask me my opinion about that. I'll tell you shouldn't have been. Right? I don't agree with that. What happened to you?
Then don't say I'm doing it for money, because you know that full well, and you say it's a
grift. Much money? How much
if
money
I wanted to be a grifter, I'd be like you.
How much money are you making?
I'm making a lot of money now. Yeah. Now that I'm the #1 live streamer in America, because people agree with me more than they agree with you. We're tired of hearing about slavery and the Holocaust and Jim Crow.
Yeah, the people on the right really love Fuentes. Well, for some reason, Piers Morgan, you still defend the right. You still don't give them grace. Like I don't know what has to click. Like you're faced with like pure evil, but you still have a beef with the left. These are the people that align with Donald Trump.
We're done hearing about that. You guys
I'm not done hearing about that.
Okay, well, your generation's on the way out, and Generation Z is coming up, and we're finished with that. We're ready to take our country back.
I've got three sons. I've got three sons, and they don't share your views about slavery and about the Holocaust. They can have decency and compassion and humanity about some of the worst things that have happened in the last 150 years or more. They can do that, and they can also have concerned views about issues like immigration and other issues. The two things are not mutually incompatible. You can have different views about different things. It's your lack of humanity and compassion for people about things like the Holocaust, about slavery. It's that people find so contemptible. And I don't understand why you need to do that. Again, I just ask you, is your motivation financial? Is your motivation for fun? What is the motivation for saying these outlandish things, which you don't need to say, and which I suspect, I don't know, I suspect a lot of it is performative. So what is the motivation?
I'm an icon.
He's a pissed off, lonely piece of shit that is just going out of his way to yell at the entire world. I mean, that's all it is.
Class. The Holocaust is not my religion, and it is treated like a religion. It is treated like a religion with dogma, with blasphemy laws, and that secular religion says, and you say that's a crock of shit. It's intentional. It's called The Open Society by Karl Popper. It's by these architects of the liberal order after World War II. They got together and they said, how can we make sure that Hitler never happens? How can we make sure that totalitarianism never happens again?
Yes,
and they came up with a consensus, which is that we need to take down nations, religions, fathers, the authoritarian personality. We need to be empathetic and altruistic. We need to be diverse and pluralistic. And that experiment isn't working. And I'll tell you the truth right now, and you can laugh at this, you can scoff at this. Our people are being genocided in our country. 50% of the live births in the United Kingdom and in the United States are non-white. In 100 years,
these people are evil. They're so manipulative. When in doubt, go to abortion, because they have no fucking good arguments. He doesn't care about this shit. He doesn't care about abortion. All he cares about is power. Evil. Evil stuff.
My ancestors, your kids who are so empathetic and compassionate, they're going to be a minority. They're going to be a minority in maybe a Muslim country, an Indian country, an Hispanic country. And these Jewish people that are 100 years old talking about my grandparents and the Holocaust, they don't care about that. Actually, they like to see it. At the SPLC, they're literally counting down the days until whites are a minority in America. So forgive me if I don't believe them when they talk about compassion. There's a genocide going on right now. It's not against the Jews.
How many Christians are there?
In Gaza, it's against
How many
whites.
Christians are there in the world? Like me,
1 point some billion,
Yeah,
2 billion.
How many Jews are there?
15 million.
Okay. So with a straight face, you're going to tell me the world is being overrun by the Jewry, by 15 million people, when there are over 1 billion Christians. There is a genocide of Christians like poor old Nick Fuentes going on at the hands of these 15 million Jews. Really?
See, this attitude is why you're losing. When you say
Who am I losing to?
white people,
Who
these
am I losing to?
white people.
Who am I losing to?
You're seeing it, mass migration. Oh, you're losing to me. We are losing as a civilization of mass migration. And here's the difference. In Israel, they have my politics. In Israel, they want to maintain a Jewish majority. If they had it their way, it would only be Jewish people. They're fighting like hell so that Jewish people can have as much territory, a Jewish state. They can be proudly Jewish in their own land. Whereas in America, we are being besieged by 10 million illegal immigrants in 4 years. And then whites and Christians are going to be the minority. And that's true in Canada, Australia.
Israel is very mixed. They have a lot of people, not Palestinian as well, in their country. And the only reason why they had a country is because every country wanted to kill them, including the Germans. America became a sanctuary of free speech, of diversity, the moment it left England. So yeah, the context of their history is completely different. But when you can't think beyond 1 + 1 = 2, you make lazy comparisons.
All the countries in Europe. So you could say there's 2 billion people, but what's the proportionality? What is the percentage of people being born that are white? Where's the arrow pointing? Where are we going to be in 50 years? In 50 years, there might be an Israel. In 50 years, there isn't going to be a white Christendom.
You don't believe people should get married, right?
I think people should get married. I'm a Christian.
But you're basically anti-marriage, really. You've talked about this. You've talked about.
Are we done talking about white genocide?
Well, I'm coming to the same part because you seem very resistant to the idea of marriage. You've never got married. You've talked very scathingly about henpecked husbands. Let's take a look.
That's true. Guys get to a certain age and they're like, you know what? Women suck. Like they're talking too much. They're not hot anymore. Like you're fat, you're chubby, you're not as hot as you think you are. You fucking talk too much. You're a bitch.
So we'll obviously get to the brazen misogyny part of that a little later. But I'm just curious. On the one hand, there's this terrible genocide going on of white people. On the other hand, you want people effectively to stop going near women because they all turn out to be so ghastly. So they shouldn't presumably procreate. So how does that work? I mean, aren't you with your rhetoric actively encouraging men not to associate with these ghastly women, therefore not have any more children? Therefore, you are contributing, Nick Fuentes, to the diminishing white population. I'm confused.
I tell my followers to get married all the time. I tell them that it's best for everybody to get married. And I think that's the only way that you can have sex. I think that's the only licit way as a Catholic is to have sex is within marriage.
Why don't you get married?
I'll get married later. It's been difficult for me because people are shooting at me at my house. I don't know that I don't want to have kids and a wife. You know, my wife would be screaming about that. Me, you know, I have to be able to take risks and be able to say these things. It's difficult to bring a family into a life that's like that. But for my followers, I tell them to get married. But what's happening with women?
You literally just told your followers, hang on, in that clip, you literally told followers, women, they get old, they get fat, they get ugly, they get very annoying. So where's the incentive to get married to women? There isn't one. You're actively telling them
you're extrapolating a lot.
We can complain. Just quoting you back yourself again.
No, but you're extrapolating and saying, well, you say women are annoying, so therefore, what's the incentive? We have to do it in spite of the fact that they are annoying. We have to do it in spite of the fact that they talk too much. We can get them to lose weight. We can put them on peptides. We can get them to the promised land. But it's going to be.
Do you think this view of women may be why none of them want to go near you?
Oh, you should see my DMs. It is quite the opposite. They're called the Groybettes, and I'm actually batting them away. Granted, not all of them are attractive. Some of them are attractive.
Are you actually, just to clear up one of the many theories about you, I have no idea what the answer is, and you haven't got to answer, but are you actually attracted to women?
I am attracted to women.
You're not gay?
No, but I will say that women are very difficult to be around. Okay. So there's that.
And do you think they should have the right to vote?
I do not. No, absolutely not.
They should stay at home?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
So basically, you're just a misogynist old dinosaur, aren't you? For a young guy. Yeah. I mean, I know I'm the boomer. I know I'm the boomer here, but actually, you're a 27-year-old dinosaur, aren't you? Aren't you, Nick Fuentes? All women, all women are annoying. All women grow old. They all get fat. Says the guy. Have you ever had sex?
No, absolutely not.
Wow. Says the guy who's never got laid.
That's the thing, though. You boomers.
That's a good one. Man, Nick Fuentes hating on women. This is my guess, right? This is my theory of Nick Fuentes. My theory is that when he was an 18-year-old young lad, and he's experiencing the world for the very first time after getting away from his racist father, he met a woman. This is unbelievable. This is a different type of woman than he's known. The woman was black. The woman was Jewish. And the woman was attractive. And he was like, oh my goodness, I found the love of my life. My dad was wrong about black people. And hey, she's really smart. She's Jewish. Then Fuentes went up to her. It's like, hey, Nick. And then she bitch slapped him, says he has a tiny dick, and he can go fuck himself. And ever since then, Nick Fuentes started to hate black people, Jewish people, and women. That is the origin story of Nick Fuentes.
It's
You think you're
always
an
get
expert in
laid,
women,
free love.
given you've never got laid?
Yeah, we are going back to the Stone Age. You're absolutely right. This, you're talking about empathy and your kids are empathetic and they would never laugh at a joke about the Holocaust and you're a misogynist. You're a simp yourself. You're totally henpecked. That's the problem. So
Let me play
to
another clip of yours about women.
A lot of women want to be raped. And when I say raped, I mean like, that sounds bad when I say it like that. But there's like a lot of women that really want a guy to beat the shit out of them. But also they have to pretend, but part of it is they have to pretend like they don't.
You think women want to be raped, do you?
That's what the studies show, Piers. That is what these statistics
that's what
say.
you believe,
They
is
have
it?
fantasies. They have fantasies about it. I don't think that they want to actually get raped, but there's a study out there. Get ready for this. It says 62% of women have rape fantasies. And if you read anything that they're reading, if you watch what they're watching.
I just don't think this exists. I think he's making shit up again. And the crazy thing is, Nick Fuentes is so fucking stupid that he thinks just because he sees a study which goes after a sample size, and I don't believe the study exists, but goes after a sample size, that means this applies to all women. I think people make that mistake all the time. Oftentimes, these sample sizes are like 1,000 people. And for something like this, I bet it's way less than that. But yeah, man, Fuentes reads number. Ooga booga. 1 + 1 = 2.
What do you think 50 Shades of Grey is about? What do you think Twilight is about? I mean, that's just true.
You think women want to have the shit beaten out of them, as you said?
Yeah, and it's very disturbing, but it's true.
Do you think your views on women might change if you actually ever had a relationship with one or had sex and actually had a proper relationship? I mean, people say the reason you're so angry about women is you're basically an incel.
I'm not angry about it.
You sound very angry. You sound very, very angry about women. They get
I'm passionate. It's an issue
You're
I'm
not passionate.
passionate about.
You're sounding very bitter about women, as if women have done a terrible disservice to you. But when you don't have relationships, you don't have sex, when are they doing these terrible things to you that's made you so hateful towards women? I'm really curious.
Was that? I don't think that was a hateful clip. I think I was laughing. I said they want men to beat the shit out of them. And that's just true. I mean, when you look at the state of modern women, all they do is lay in their bed, doom scroll. They're chilling out. They're getting a little fat. It is what it is. I don't know what the average weight is, but
More generalizations. That he's going to feed his base, who are groiper, lonely pieces of garbage, and who are going to reciprocate this rhetoric. See, I'm not like Jesus Christ, man. I call it how I see it. I'm not peace, love, and happiness. I'm a truth teller. More so than Fuentes here.
they're getting a little heavy. And any guy that is playing the field these days will tell you that. I mean, and I know a lot of the Chads. I am an incel. I'm friends with a lot of Chads like Bradley Martin, Clavicular. They agree with me. You know, there's sort of like this alliance between the guys that don't have sex and the guys that get the most sex. We know what women are about. It's the guys in the middle. Guys like you in the middle, it's the beta male orbiters that say, she's amazing, you're a misogynistic pig. Because I don't know what that is. I guess.
Well, come on, let me explain to you what I think it is. I think when a 27-year-old guy who's never got laid, never had a meaningful relationship with a woman, says that women shouldn't be allowed to vote, they should stay at home, that all they do is fantasize about being raped and being beaten up, that's what they want, that they're annoying, that they get fat, that they get ugly, that's a misogynist. Now, you may not understand it because your knowledge of women is so incredibly tiny, but actually, you are the embodiment of a misogynist. It couldn't be clearer. And if I was, in a way, you have the deep-rooted misogyny of some of the actual boomers I know. Yet here you are, 27 years old. And most of the current studies show that a lot of men are really disenfranchised from society, no longer have physical relationships with women if they've ever had them, never associate with women, and build up instinctively misogynist views about women. And I fear you're in that position. You're just a bit of a lonely guy who wants to get laid and can't for whatever reason. And it's made you bitter about women. And I don't know where that's come from, but it's fascinating.
No, see, here's the thing. First of all, you're very caught up in the labels. It's always, you're a racist, you're a misogynist.
You said you were a
racist. Nothing to me. Oh, hang on, can I respond?
You gave yourself the label.
What is this?
You said, I am a racist. I didn't give you the label.
Okay.
You said, Nick Fuentes, I am a racist.
Calm down. Calm down.
Did you or didn't you?
It's okay.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
so I didn't give you the label. You did.
Why are you yelling at me?
Because you're trying to infer something that didn't happen. You said, I gave you the label of being a racist. No, you did. You said, I'm a racist. You gave yourself the label.
You're going to have to tone it down a little, all right? You're going to have to bring it down a notch and relax. This is just an interview, okay? Please calm down. All I said is you're hung up. I didn't say you gave me that. Maybe I did.
You did.
But here's what I mean. What I mean is you're just hung up on saying, I'm proving you're a misogynist. Okay, you're a racist. Okay, you denied the Holocaust. And I'm not about the labels, man. I'm just past that.
As I said to you, look, Nick, I just wanted to go over the stuff that everyone uses out there about you.
You know what's funny? He's not about labels that define his character based off actions he does, but he is about stereotypes that define a people based off a small percentage of actions other people do. So he's okay with stereotyping, but he's not okay with labels because he's a sensitive prick. He's sensitive. He gets in those feelings. He wants to be the joke guy. He wants to say outrageous things. Well, then he tries to play the victim. Our generation is tired of all the labels. Our generation's tired of all this, and that. We want to rot. Sounds like the same attitude that he claims black people have. I don't know.
And get you to respond. And we are getting, I think, a long way in this interview.
Okay.
Right? You didn't deny the Holocaust. You accepted there's been a Holocaust of at least 6 million Jews.
I'm a maximalist. I'm a Holocaust.
That is significant. You did admit you're a racist, and you have spelled out a thought process about women, which is the purest definition of misogyny that I've ever seen. And you said you're not gay. So we're getting somewhere. You've grown increasingly disillusioned, I think it'd be fair to say. Let's just play a recent clip from you about Trump.
We played this game in the first term. We're 10 years in. And you still have these people, I hate to say it, but they're just like in denial. And they're like, okay, everybody, let's all go on Twitter and let's tell Trump, don't screw over your voters. Okay.
There's no way in a debate with Nick Fuentes, Piers Morgan spends this entire section. It wasn't the entire debate, this entire section defending Donald Trump. There's no way that happens, right? There's no way my eyes will see that, right?
Hey, Trump, don't hire John Ratcliffe in the CIA. Like, what are we doing? We lost. It's over. The time to make demands was during the election when he needed the votes. He's a lame duck president. He doesn't need anything from us. He's not even on Twitter. He's on Truth Social. So what are you talking about? We're going to all rally and tell him, don't hire yet another neocon?
Now, over the weekend, you posted this on X. You said performative cruelty is the perfect phrase to characterize the Trump admin and the mood of the MAGA movement. In order to compensate for his compromises and failures, Trump has to fall back on mean-spiritedness to appeal to the basest instincts of his followers. It's really sad. I mean, do you think you're the best person, Nick Fuentes, to lecture people about performative cruelty?
Why? Are you accusing me of being cruel? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
How am I cruel?
You're cruel about black people. You're cruel about women. I mean, you're cruel about a lot of people. And you're very performative.
Okay. I don't think I'm performative. If anything, everyone else is performative. I'm authentic. You know, whatever you want to say about me, it's real. It's from the gut. But yes, I do think it's performative. And what I mean by
how doesn't Piers Morgan see Donald Trump and Fuentes? The blinders this man has for Donald Trump is ridiculous.
that is, you know, when they're doing the deportations, they know the deportations are not where the base wants them to be. They deported, the figures are disputed, but from my data, it's 300,000 in the year, which is not a massive deportation. They know the base is unhappy with that. So what do? The deportations that they are carrying out, they do a big spectacle and they arrest everybody and they film it and they put a hype at it. And there's a meanness in there. They played that song. I think from Sabrina Carpenter or something, and they make it a joke. They make it glib, and they do that because they're not delivering on the promise. So they compensate by doing it meaner, edgier, more mean-spirited, so that the base will overlook the fact that it's not happening. And I think that's by definition performative cruelty. You can call me a hypocrite, but it's definitely true about what they're doing in the administration.
You went to
I can't believe I'm about to say this. Nick Fuentes is right. He's absolutely correct in his characterization of what the Trump admin does. Oh my goodness. Is this a flip? Is this a flip? All right, let's see how this plays out. Something tells me Piers Morgan's going to play defense. All right, here.
see Trump at Mar-a-Lago with Ye for dinner. What was that like?
it was very interesting. They're my two heroes. Ye is my hero. Trump is my hero. Even though he's very disappointing, I still have a personal hero of mine. And he's a remarkable person. It was a great conversation. We got along pretty well. He liked me. I liked him. It was a love fest.
I mean, he got attacked afterwards for supping with the white supremacist devil. I mean, do you accept you are a white supremacist?
No, absolutely not.
You don't think white people are superior to black people?
No, I'm a Christian, so I believe everybody is equal before God.
Including women?
Shut the fuck up.
Yes.
So you give women equal rights then?
No.
Great.
No.
Great. Okay. So you just talked a little bullshit, didn't you?
No. Why are you like mad about this? No.
You want women
and
to be
men are
treated
different.
equally before God, but you don't want to give them equal rights.
Yeah, because women
Okay,
and men
it's
are
fine.
different.
Look,
Do
it's
you
your
believe there are
view.
two genders?
It's your view.
You think there's two genders?
I do think there are two genders, yes.
Okay. And so you mean there's distinction. There are two distinct genders.
I think we should all have the same rights to...
Well, if they're meaningfully distinct, biologically distinct, and they have different social and biological roles, I think it would follow that we would treat them a little bit differently in the law.
Do you think
That's
the Catholic
key.
Church's teachings reflect that?
I do. Yeah, there's
Really?
no female priests. Have you ever seen that?
Do you think that the Catholic Church thinks all women should be deprived of the vote?
Yeah, I think so.
No, they don't.
I think they do, yeah.
You think the Catholic Church position is women shouldn't be allowed to vote?
I think so, yeah,
No.
but I'm not positive.
No, it's bullshit.
Oh, it should be.
This guy says something so definitively, bro. He is a more radical, dare I say, more intelligent Donald Trump. I think what happened is Nick Fuentes took all Donald Trump's techniques and just applied it to himself. Just say radical, ridiculous things, never apologizes, says things as facts, ignore facts, says what he says is true, and then people on his cult is going to... This is crazy. Piers Morgan is debating someone that is the epitome of the MAGA movement, and he just doesn't see it. He just doesn't.
You should be. So if you were Pope, that's what you do. You could be Pope because you're celibate.
That's true. And I'm also from Chicago, like the Pope. But look,
Right.
I mean, women, it says in the Bible that women have no authority over men, and they can't teach men, and that's why there's no female priests.
There's a lot of
So I
things in
don't
the
think
Bible.
Catholic-
I mean, do you think every word of the Bible is sacrosanct?
Well, yeah, it's inspired scripture.
That's all
But
of
I
it
mean,
is
is this now
all of it is
a
sacrosanct.
theological debate? Well, it is Catholic doctrine that women should not lead and teach. I mean, you're not interacting with what I'm saying. Why can't women be priests?
There should be.
Okay, well, you're not Catholic. That's not a Catholic
I am a
position.
Catholic. I just many things I disagree with the Catholic.
All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. We've been going way too long. 2 hours is enough. I was very curious. I think Piers Morgan did perform well. Obviously, I knew Nick Fuentes is evil, but hopefully you guys got a lot of, in terms of analysis on Nick Fuentes' strategies to manipulate people. Still disappointed that Piers Morgan doesn't see exactly what he's dealing with and how he helps this ideology by defending the right all the time, but it is what it is. We move. Hope you guys enjoyed. You have a good one. Take care.